When you have a radical situation, you must have you must find radical solutions to that situation. And today, money has become our value system. We cannot overcome if you don't put the right, if you don't put square peg in square holes. How do you want to overcome?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today on another episode of the show, Broadcast Unfiltered. I'm your host, Bodurin Adebo. Last week was yet another harrowing experience for Nigeria and for Nigerians. There seems to be no letting off from the spate of kidnappings, killings, abductions, and terrorist insurgency being witnessed in different parts of the country. Earlier in the week, 25 young girls, students at Government Girls Secondary School in Maga, Kebbi State, were abducted by supposed bandits in the early hours of the day, and their vice principal killed in the process, and several others injured. Towards the end of the week, over 200 students were kidnapped at a Catholic boarding school in Piri, Niger State, and tens of their teachers kidnapped along with them. Midweek, worshippers at the Christ Apostolic Church, Eruku in Kwara State, were attacked by Fulani jihadists who stormed the church during an evening service, killed 3 people, and kidnapped more than 35 members of the church along with them. Indeed, be bringing the perpetrators to book. And towards the end of the week, the U.S. House of Representatives held a hearing on religious freedoms in Nigeria, as well as the redesignation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern by the U.S. administration. So much is going on. But one thing is this: Nigerians are worried. Nigerians are concerned. The life that Nigeria used to live is no longer what it used to be. There is fear in the land. To help us throw more light on this, I have on the show today a highly respected retired military general. My guest today is retired Major General Romeo Ishola Williams. General Williams is not a stranger to many who are familiar with the struggle to return Nigeria to democratic rule. He resigned his commission in the wake of the June 12, 1993 crisis as a form of protest against the illegal annulment of that election. Since then, he has remained as a conscience of the nation, speaking truth to power. He is a security consultant of note. He is the executive director of La Range Security Outfit based in Lagos, Nigeria. He was one time a member of the Nigeria Olympic Committee, as well as one time vice president of Transparency International, Nigeria. So, General Williams, welcome to the show. That has just gone by has been quite harrowing for Nigeria and for Nigerians. The spate of kidnappings of students from schools, attacks on churches, and so on. And so far, it appears to many that the government still does not have a solution to the problems of insecurity the country is facing. So from your vantage point of view, would you say that Nigeria or the government basically has given up in terms of finding a solution to insecurity problems in the country? Over to you, sir.
Okay. It's good to see you again, and it's good to be on your show.
Thank you,
Let me
sir.
start by saying that in your introduction, all the positions you have mentioned have dropped. The only thing I'm doing now is the NGO that I'm running as the executive secretary, which is Pan-Africana Strategic and Policy Research Group. And we're, working from areas of culture to safety and security. Now, in answer to your question, if you have been having a problem from one regime to the other over the last 15 years, what do? You sit down with every regime that comes in, look at the past mistakes of the previous regime, and then you try your best to find a way to resolve the problems of what you face.
Mm-hmm.
But what you have discovered in Nigeria is that when political parties are formulating their so-called manifestos, they do not even talk much about the problems we are facing because none of them, including those who are retired generals, understand the difference between public safety and security. Whenever you hear embassies give out notices, they will tell their citizens, especially Western embassies, they will tell their citizens, do not go to any particular area of a particular country because it is not safe. They did not use the word security. Therefore, what has been happening is that we have been confusing s- public safety with security. And because of that confusion, our military and security agencies themselves are confused. So you find the military doing the job of the police, and the police not even trying to understand what they are supposed to be doing. Everywhere in the world, public safety starts from the bottom,
Mm.
from communities, local government, and state. And they have police systems to take over that responsibility. And the responsibility is to prevent crime and
Mm.
to deter crimes and to provide intelligence. Banditry usually start from villages and rural areas where they can hide.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, if you have a bottom-up safety system, you are likely to have less of crimes.
Mm.
And if you have bottom-up intelligence system for information about what's going on, you have more chances of reducing crimes and preventing it to get to the level where it has got to today. Having said that, what you discover is that while every country in the world, especially in the federal system, have bottom-up police system, we are still sticking to top-down police system. The president said the other day he supports state police, and the presidency will work with the National Assembly to appropriate the necessary laws to make that happen. Although it's already happening anyway, Amotekun in the Southwest has proven that yes, public safety from bottom up can work. In Lagos, where I live, there's a Lagos State Neighborhood Watch. Okay, it has proven that with neighborhood safety system, it can work. Okay, the people in the north, starting from Kwara State, have always refused to set up the sort of system that we have in the south. They believe that the police can do the job, and I've given seminars in which people are very reluctant in the north. But now they are mostly accepted that they need policing bottom up. The federal government and the NAS are delaying. In the meantime, those states have funny arrangements. They have vigilantes, they have hunters, and those ones are being killed like they kill soldiers and policemen too. In addition to that, there's a civilian joint task force in Borno State, especially.
Yeah.
They too, they are suffering casualties.
Hmm.
Okay, so in short, instead of reorganizing the military and state securities in line with differentiating between public safety and security, we have not done that. What we just do is to keep adding on new agencies, believing that that can solve the problem, but it
Hmm.
cannot. Let me
Yeah.
give you an example. Recently, the president approved that they should have a forest guard. Forest guard have been existing in Nigeria, but they've created a new one at the federal level. But you don't need to at the federal level.
But General, I
The
think
states already have federal
I'm
guard.
sorry to butt in, sir, but you are making a very strong point. The president, because I heard the debate also when the president announced that he was going to start forest guard, it would appear that the president says something and then the next day he comes again and drops another thing. He said, oh, I'm in support of state police. While that was still going on, he said we are going to bring back forest guard. Why do you think the government, despite the president in particular, despite all the campaign promises he made, we have a battalion against terrorism, it sounded so nice and sweet to the ears then. Do you think there is a total breakdown of coordination, even within the presidency? Because tomorrow he may come up with something else, rather than focusing on annexing what is already on ground.
No, we've been talking about coordination since the kingdom come in Nigeria.
Mm.
What I'm trying to say is that before you come to coordination, the military, in simple terms, the mobile police was established to be a paramilitary force. And a paramilitary force is responsible for public safety, especially when it gets to the level of violence. The state and local government police, they are responsible at that level under the control of the governor of the state for preventing and deterring crime and providing intelligence to the federal level where action can be taken. And that intelligence is supposed to help too in reorganizing the structures that are necessary to face any crime or violent crimes that the state cannot handle. We are not doing that. That's what I'm saying. We are not doing that. The necessary reorganization that's supposed to be done has not been done. We are just creating agencies. And as you create agencies, coordination becomes more difficult because all the mandates are confused. That is where we are. And every regime that comes refuses to do the reorganization. People are talking about security architecture, redesign the security architecture. The government has already refused to do that. Okay? Buhari stayed there for 8 years. He refused to do it. Toward the end of his regime, he said, don't worry, the next government can do that. Now, the next government has been there for nearly 2 years now. It has refused to do it. And we are looking forward to election in 2026. That's next year. If what they are saying, the National Assembly, is passing into a law that we should hold election in November 2026, it is reorganization and redesigning security architecture that is important. We are using the wrong structure to face banditry, criminality, and so on. were put all the responsibility on the military.
Mm.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it is wrong.
And the military
So
is overstretched now.
it is their fault. It is their fault. Recently, the new chief of defense staff before the National Assembly said, let the police do what is written in the Constitution as their mandate.
Mm.
But we need to separate the police from the mobile police, from OPOL. We need to separate that. Transfer policing to state and local government. Leave MOPOL as its own agency and responsible for facing banditry and criminality
Mm.
under its own command, either Director General of MOPOL or Commandant General of Mobile Police, independent. And then you also have the civil defense. They carry guns too.
Mm-hmm.
You have the civil defense. What
Yeah.
are they doing? I've spoken about the forest guard and so on. There's DSS, you know, for intelligence and so on. So all these agencies are there, but what are they doing?
Mm.
That is the point.
Yeah.
And then the governor of Zamfara State did complain in a video. He hasn't got the authority over any force that it can be used to fight banditry and criminalities in Zamfara. And he said very clearly and openly, if you give me the control, or if I have my own law enforcement element, I can wipe out banditry and criminality in 2 months. 2 months, that's what he said. If I have if I have control over the law enforcement agencies. But nobody listening to that. Then when things happen, we start talking about it again. In the next 2 weeks, all these noises and so on and so forth, they are going to die down. And except any other thing happens again, it's going to die down. Now, the president sent the minister of state for defense to Zamfara to go and do what? What does the man know? He was governor of a state, and the state is still having problems. And the northern governors are busy negotiating with the bandits and the criminals. So, can you see confused approach to the
Yeah.
whole issue?
It
Can you see
is.
confused approach?
Yeah.
That is the point.
I totally agree with you. But sir, I like the way you made the distinction that, you know, perhaps based on what you're saying, we have a policing problem, we have a structural problem, we have, the creation of multiple agencies, all in response to one problem. So the summary of it all is that we have not done a proper analysis of what the issues are and how best we can tackle it. Now, there's been different characterization to what is going on. The latest now is that this is Christian genocide. Now, from your understanding of military warfare and how these different manifestations of, violent crimes and criminality, how would you describe what we have? Do we have a jihadist problem, or we have an issue of terrorism? Because I'm trying to make a distinction between the two. Jihadist plus Islamization goes hand in hand. Okay, terrorism, yes, it's just seizing control of territories and so on and establishing their own form of government. So, do you think we have a jihadist problem, or we have just terrorism and banditry issues?
We have There's no terrorism in Africa, none, and even in Nigeria. Terrorism is a tactic of insurgents. Okay, what you have in Nigeria is banditry and criminalities with extreme violence. Okay, now the interesting thing about Nigeria is this is that Have you heard of Sheikh Gumi?
Yes, of course, I
Have you
know
heard
him.
of? Yeah.
Yeah,
Sheikh, Sheikh Gumi says all security agencies, they know where the bandits and the criminals are, that he has gone with them to those locations, especially in the Northwest.
yeah.
Nobody has denied it. Nobody. Until today, Sheikh Gumi is still talking.
Hmm.
So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
It tells you something. There seems to be a conspiracy that criminalities and banditries and kidnapping in the North must not stop because it may be serving a political purpose. It may be serving a political purpose. Okay. Now, when you are when you then look at it, like I said earlier, if you tell Mopol, you make Mopol independent of the police and tell Mopol, you face criminalities and banditry with the state police. You military face insurgency who want to separate from Nigeria and have a caliphate in Borno State. Boko Haram and ISWAP, they are not interested in any part of Nigeria except Borno State. They are not interested. Okay. And also, they have made it known that they only use Chad and Cameroon and Niger as rest areas. They are more concerned about Nigeria and they want Borno State to be a caliphate. And the interesting thing is that most of the insurgents who want to create a caliphate are jihadists. Okay. And most of them are from the Kanuri ethnic group. And you then wonder how come that the elders and traditional rulers of the Kanuri people cannot stop these young people
Mm.
going into jihadism? Why?
Good question. Mhm.
If it's not a conspiracy,
Yeah.
why not? The governor of Borno State, we always run to Abuja and say, see you, but they are killing my people and things like that. It's a Kanuri man, like those people in
Mm.
ISWAP and BH.
Yeah.
And if anybody tells you that they are interested in crossing over to the south or something like that, that's a lie. There's another area, herders farmers conflict,
Yeah.
the Fulani herders. Now, those ones who are the owners of the cattle, they are not the owners. Oh. If anybody tells you that those young people who drive the cattle all over the place are the owner, it's a lie. Many of the people who own the cattle are traditional rulers, very rich people, and so on. Nobody can touch them. And then we continue to say that we have had that cattle problem. They want to a place where they can roam and feed their cattle. When we are living in a new age of ranches and so on. So you can see what's happening in Nigeria. People are not serious, especially those in authority. And it's a conspiracy of the elites making the ordinary people suffer. I challenge anybody to tell me that what I'm saying is not true. I challenge everybody in any part of Nigeria, from any part of Nigeria. That is what it is. Like Governor Zamfara said, 2 months you can solve his own problem, 6 months you can solve the one in Nigeria. And how do you do that?
Mm.
Restructure the security
So,
architecture.
General, if you say Boko Haram's interest is to carve out a caliphate for themselves in the Borno Kanuri area. I mean,
Yes.
it's a very interesting point you made, but it would appear truly that much of the activities has been localized to Borno and maybe some parts of Yobe. Then, what do we say about groups like Lakurawa and the ones being led by Bello Turji and so on and so forth? What is their own objective?
Very clear, very clear. And Sheikh Gumi has been telling you people you will not listen. And there's one time on the television interview, I said that what Sheikh Gumi is saying And people have refused to challenge him is saying that the Fulani herders are minorities, and therefore their areas are underdeveloped. Okay, the areas are underdeveloped, and what federal government needed to do is to find replied. There's a nomadic commission in Abuja. It was set up over 20 years ago to do what? Education and health of the nomadic people, including fishermen and so on and so forth. They get budget every year. What do they do with the money? And I've been involved in a project about 30 years ago in which these nomadic education people, commission people, set up camps, build water holes for nomadic Fulanis. What about that? What has happened to that nomadic commission that Shegumi is complaining about? Two, the federal government has now set up development commission for each of the zonal areas, including the one for the northeast, northwest, and so on and so forth. What are they doing? Okay. Three, state government are getting so much money nowadays. What are they doing? Four, Sheikh Gumi has come out openly that every security agency in Nigeria knows where the criminals and the bandits are. Okay. Why didn't they go there? Five, some state governors are negotiating peace talks. Recently in Katsina, from what I've read, 21 local governments councils in Katsina negotiated with the bandits and the criminals a peace accord. Have you heard that anywhere in the world? A peace accord for them to stop abducting and kidnapping people. So tell me, sir,
Hmm.
where is the problem that we cannot resolve? Tell me.
Hmm.
Oh,
Well, so let's go to the big elephant in the room. Like I said earlier, on Thursday there was the U.S. House of Representatives had this hearing over religious freedoms in Nigeria and Nigeria's designation as a country of particular concern. I mean, as a retired general, sir, do you think Nigeria should take Donald Trump's threat to send US troops into Nigeria, guns are blazing, and it will be swift and sweet in terms of their intervention? Should we take that threat serious?
see, the United States armed forces have shifted away completely from counterinsurgency. Their focus and attention is towards the Pacific and the Indian Ocean and mainly China. If you ask any military officer in the United States who says they want to come and have military intervention in Nigeria, you need to ask them, one, where are you going to start? And two, how long are you going to stay? And from the experiences in Afghanistan and so on, United States is not good in counterinsurgency. Western countries are not good in counterinsurgency. We have seen France and every other person in the Sahel. What have they achieved? Nothing. The only thing the United States can use, cut off aid to Nigeria, sanction the elements, the elites, including those who are in government, who have refused to take necessary action, who have refused to take advice, ideas, and so on, that could have stopped all this reputational disgrace that we are facing today, to sanction them. That's all the United States needed to do, not to start threatening about coming to invade Nigeria. It's all blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about that. That one doesn't bother me. There are so many tools that they can use that can hurt those elites who are refusing to take responsibility. But the interesting thing about Nigeria is this: is that, what has happened in the last 1 week, if it were anywhere in Europe or Asia, all those commanders and NSA ministers, they will resign. They will resign.
Yeah,
Or they'll be
true.
sacked.
True. Yeah.
It will not happen in Nigeria.
I mean, I saw the Minister of State for Defense, and they had a whole quarter guard for him on arrival at the airport. And I said, "Are we serious at all? This is a national emergency." The man was inspecting the guard of honor like he's a visiting head of state to another country.
But I've told you that we are not serious. We don't know what we are doing. We appear, many people have asked me whether we have people who think in Nigeria.
Fair question.
Especially in their security governance system. Do you have people who think at all? In there's one about over many centuries ago, where one Englishman said, if you have an army without people who can think, you'll be commanded by fools, okay? And you have idiots as soldiers. Remember that word. You need people who think in any organization. And if they do not think, seek ideas from outside, from those who have gone before them. The United States today, no matter what your rank is, if you have any good idea, they consult.
Yeah.
They are retired officer association. They're always holding annual meetings, annual conferences, round tables, in which they invite their colleagues in uniform to listen to what they see from outside.
Yeah.
And to help them. It's our own country. We want it to be better. But what is important, like I told you before, is that there's no African country that is insecure. None. If you see any conflict in Africa, it comes from either greed, corruption, or grievances, bad governance. Those are the two things in Africa. Go and find out. Go and find out. Is that they undermine the minorities in terms of development, so they have a grievance, and people are stealing left, right, and center. Okay, and when you even look at the security system in Nigeria and safety system, people are stealing. People are stealing, and then because people want to make money, they buy inappropriate equipment, inappropriate force multiplier. We don't need a Tucano. We don't. In this age of drones, see what Ukraine is doing with Russia. Russia with the fantastic weapon system and everything. When United States left Afghanistan, see the equipment they left behind. What did the Afghanistans have? AK-47. AK-47 and guerrilla tactics. India had been fighting counterinsurgency since 1917 in Nagaland. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
The whole northeast of India have been seeing insurgency since 1945. They are still going on. Some have been resolved. What did they do? They have commando police.
Yeah.
In India. At the state level, commando police, I beg you, Joe. I just people. That's why if United States can sanction the elites of Nigeria, it will be better.
Yeah. I mean, do we even see do we see our military going on the offensive? Because what we hear of mostly is that, they repelled attacks by these bandits, repelled attacks by Boko Haram, by Lakurawa. You don't see headlines that suggest that the military is hot on the heels of this criminal element. why is Nigeria's posture more of reactive rather than, going on the offensive against these evil forces?
You reminded me of a report from, if you can recollect, to mercenary group that from South Africa that Jonathan brought to Nigeria. In that report, what they said was this: the mercenary group, keep offensive as the primary tactics. Don't allow the insurgents to rest. Attack them left, right, and center. Now, the mistake we are making is this: is that India tried what the Air Force has been doing for the past few years now, bomb from the air. No, discovered that it doesn't work. You need to tackle people at the ground level. And that's what the South African mercenaries were doing. They did not give the Boko Haram then any respect at all. They keep pursuing them. They keep pursuing them. That is why I'm saying that there seems to be a conspiracy about this whole thing. Buhari came and sent them packing. He did not bother to think seriously with the armed forces and so on to say, really, let's sit down with these people. What are they've been offering something and we've been getting some successes. Do we need to send them away? Or they can still continue to compliment us. If you see the report from the mercenary company, no, it didn't show Nigerian Army in good light. I'm telling you. And one of the examples they give happened recently, in which the late General Uba, may so rest in peace, when he escaped into the forest, he was communicating with mobile phone. If that's if that's true,
Ordinary mobile phone.
on that, normally, even with ordinary mobile phone, for
Mm.
example, United States there, if you want to call emergency, you don't need
Yeah.
network, do you?
Yeah. 911.
Thank you. Do you need
Yeah.
network?
Mhm.
Why can't you use that?
Yeah.
Why can't you use that? So it, it should have got that, which means that the communication system in the army
Mm.
at this stage in 2025, we are buying to Kano, but we cannot we cannot afford basic battlefield communication system.
Mm.
Ah, can you imagine that?
And the old
Can you
general
imagine?
who was leading his,
Exactly.
yeah.
So what is the battlefield communication system now
Mm.
in the northeast with the Nigerian Armed Forces? So every time the Air Force will say they bombed a particular area in Samiba Forest. But how come again that for the past 15 years we cannot deal with Boko Haram and ISWAP in Samiba Forest? How come we cannot deal with ISWAP in Lake Chad area? If you can recall it again, the late president of Chad, the son is now is not the president. It is Debbie. He led an attack against Boko Haram in Lake Chad area. You know what Boko Haram people said? They Many of them were killed though. They just said that, Chad, please leave us alone now. Leave us alone. It's Nigeria we're interested in, Borno State. That's what Boko Haram said. And when you look at it again, where do Boko Haram ISWAP get money, logistics, and recruits? And we have been able to stop for the past 15 years. Tell me. So is our intelligence system working?
Yeah, I mean, here, I'm sure you're familiar with this also. The police here, they tell you that they run towards where there is, security incidents. The police don't run away from it here. So they are the first line of respondents. Unfortunately, that is not the experience in Nigeria, whether the
No.
army or the police. I think the first run away, like the Kebbi situation, we understand there was intelligence report that there was going to be an attack. Yes, fine, you may not know the exact place where such an attack will be taking place. But we understood that less than an hour, that they moved the checkpoint close to the school was when these guys, ransacked that school and kidnapped the girls. So it appears our own security posture is when you hear a gunshot somewhere, run away first, and then come back later and ask what happened. And that's why we keep lagging behind in this sense. So is it about training, or it's just a manifestation of the fact that even those who wear uniform for Nigeria, they question why they wear that uniform in the first instance? I mean, nobody wants. I'm not saying you should just go die for nothing. That's not what I mean. But for anyone who signs the document to say I want to be a military person, I want to be in the police, you're taking on a responsibility. But do you think we now have a very weak army, weak police, that they are not even willing to do what they signed up to do in the first instance?
Most, in fact, most people join the army if they can't find another job. And it's a place where when you go for training, you are well paid, medical attention and so on is free. Okay. And there was a case in which some men were recruited from mobile police and they were sent to Maiduguri for training. Within 1 week, all of them ran away. They all ran away. Okay. The chief of army staff said recently, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it was all over the place, that they could not account for for thousands of recruits that they recruited who disappeared after training. That is why I'm saying that we have a problem with not only intelligence, but counterintelligence. In short, like everybody knows, the security agencies have been infiltrated. Some of the judges have joined the army and trained. So, and maybe it includes officers too. That is why. So, in most cases, the will to fight, which is important in any military or paramilitary, the will to fight is declining. The will to fight is declining. It's declining because, simple question, if a soldier who is fighting in the Northeast ask, what am I fighting for? What answer will you give him? Tell me. What answer will you give him? If a soldier, say from Ibadan, you tend to go and fight in the Northeast, what answer will you give him?
Hmm.
Why is fighting? What answer? You tell him you don't want jihadists to create a caliphate. At the back of his mind, he will say, it's Borno State, Nigeria. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, when you compare that to the Southeast with the IPOB, they continued from the session of Biafra and things like that. Okay. Again, because of grievance,
Hmm.
because of grievance. These grievances, are they true? If it is true, that one is simple. Political negotiation.
Yeah.
Simple. The one of IPOB in the South is political negotiation. It's as simple as that. But when you then go to the Northeast and you have the ideas want to create a caliphate,
Hmm.
what sort of political negotiation do you want to do?
Do you want to?
And then when you come to the criminals and the bandits and all those ones, that Sheikh Gumi seems to be their spokesman or spokesperson. What will you say they want? Now, the interesting thing is this is that every president that comes to Nigeria is afraid of the North.
Hmm. Yeah,
Every president.
that's
And
true.
why? Because they needed their vote to stay in power.
Hmm.
I've not seen any president in Nigeria who has come and boldly. At one time, when you become a president, you fly to Sokoto to go and talk to Sultan of Sokoto in the past. That has stopped now. But every president is still afraid of this thing. So when you look at the present regime too, it's a Yoruba man, or Odua, because I don't like the word Yoruba. It's an Odua man. So he pushed Odua people and the northern people. Still, the northern people are not satisfied. But then the Igbos are complaining too that we are not getting our own share. Those are some of the issues, that we need to consider when we are
And really,
looking
I
at this
wonder
thing.
who is getting his own share in Nigeria. To be honest, it's just the elites getting their share. Obasanjo was there. He was Yoruba or Odua man, as you say. The road passing his farm was not hard, Ota Road. You have Tinubu there, as that turned Lagos or Osun State into an El Dorado. But it's just the political elites who continue to use this kind of argument, to favor themselves. So, but I mean, I digress in that sense. General,
No,
as we begin,
you are not aggressing. It's a very important point. And the statement you have made is not true. It's not. It's not true at all. What Buhari did was very obviously wrong. And President Tinubu is following the same way of what Buhari did. And when Buhari was there, because the Yorubas helped him to get to power, he was giving positions more to the Northerners than to the Southerners, but more to Yoruba than Igbo people. The same thing now with President Tinubu. So this is not a matter of elite. These are political choices. Now, you're also forgetting now too, everybody defecting to APC. Everybody defecting to APC. Why? Why? So to me, what is happening is this is that we have a problem of followership in Nigeria, not leadership. Because leaders come from followers. If the followers choose wrong leaders, it is not the fault of the leaders at all. It's the fault of the followers. You see, Centers for Leadership Studies, University for Leadership Studies, you will never see the one for followers. And leaders come from followers. And some followers maybe understand their rights, but they don't understand their responsibilities. That if a country is bad, the responsibility rests on their shoulders, the followers, because they will suffer. And that's why they are suffering today.
yeah. All right.
The
I,
followers.
I I take that also. I take it. So, General, as we round up, what what gives you hope? I don't want to say hope and concern because we've discussed so much of the concern, but what gives you hope for Nigeria? Do you think we will overcome this current phase that we are passing through?
We cannot overcome if you don't put the right, if you don't put square peg in square holes. How do you want to overcome? How do you want to overcome? And two, for followers too, like I said earlier, the common people, to take certain responsibilities on their own. For example, How do you want to stop the banditry and the kidnapping and so on if people cannot give information to security agencies? After all, bandits are children of some people, bandits are husbands of some people, bandits sometimes share houses with some people, bandits are serviced by some people who take food, fuel, who look after their logistics, all for money. And today, money has become our value system. Money has become our value system. And therefore, people are ready to do anything for money. If not, who are the people who are supporting the bandits and so on? I like Sheikh Gumi. He has come out openly. He has come out openly. And when he talks, the government shakes. The intelligence people cannot do anything about it because he's telling the truth. And you could see that some of the things he has said, development commission that have been created in the Northeast and all the zones, the Ministry of Livestock for cattle, cows, and everything has come in. He never speaks about nobody commission because he knows that that's what they have been created for. And he's never afraid to speak. Okay. And he has told everybody, security agencies, they know where the bandits are, the criminals are. And state governments are negotiating with them. So are you telling me that we don't know how to solve the problem?
All
That's my
right, sir.
conclusion. We know how
Hmm.
to solve the problems. We
Yeah.
don't want to do so.
All right. So lastly, sir, what would you want Nigerian policymakers to take out of this conversation? I know you've said that um, we should listen to Gumi. That's very controversial because people have their opinions about what he says that appears to always side with the bandits, but there is value in what you've said. So, lastly, what would you want Nigerian policymakers to take away from this conversation?
One, don't look at Gumi as a messenger. Look at what he says. Analyze what he says and see how you can respond to that. Because if he's not talking sense, why are the governors negotiating with, with the bandits and the criminals? Why? The federal government said nobody should pay ransom. People are paying ransom, and some are being killed after paying ransom. Nothing has happened. Okay. Two, restructure, reorganize, starting with the police. I've suggested that the police should be divided into three parts. One, the mobile police and the paramilitary police as an agency of its own with a commandant general, just like civil defense. Number two, you set up what everybody has all over the world, crime intelligence and criminal investigation agency with a director general. Okay. They will concentrate on criminality, banditry, and so on. And the intelligence needed to be able to solve that problem. DSS will concentrate on domestic intelligence, counterinsurgency, and so on and so forth. Okay. The third area is Inspector General of Police. Once you create state police and local government police, you need same standard of training, okay, same standards for policing throughout the country. Three, monitoring for feedback. Therefore, the Inspector General of Police should be under the Ministry of Internal Affairs, just like the Homeland Affairs in the United States. The Inspector General of Police will be under the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Okay. And he'll be responsible for training, standards, monitoring, evaluation, and feedback, and be given every 6 months reports to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, to the presidency about how the state police are doing. Okay. To check the governors who may want to misuse them. Okay. And three, we can save and we can save a lot of money, for example, in election security, because the state police and local government police can do election security. That's just to digress a bit. Now, our intelligence and counterintelligence system is weak, are weak. We need to do something about them. It's obvious now. It's obvious. We need to do something about, and it has to be bottom up. How do you arrange that? Now, it is not weakness in the structure. Civil defense has intelligence, the military has, the police. This new, every one of them, including road safety, they have intelligence. And then you have the private security too, who can also feed into intelligence. So it's a matter of reorganizing and restructuring. Then when you have done that, you look at the operational tactics of the police and the military in being able to deal with counterinsurgency in the Northeast. Everything requires operational tactics, whether it's the police or the military, whether you're attacking bandits and things like that. And what has happened in this is that we have got to a stage that we are getting to that is happening in Latin America for some time and up to today. Gangs, those, even though we are not using the word gangs, those bandits now have now become gangs, like you find in Latin America. But nobody agrees with me. But I'm telling them, but nobody agrees with me. And some of the ideas I bring, they think that Nigeria is not ready. And people like soldiers, police, and everybody, they are dying every day. And you are not ready. When you have a radical situation, you must have radical, you must find radical solutions to that situation. And finally, Nigeria was created to be a federal Republic of Nigeria. Today, since 1999, federalism has been declining in Nigeria, aided and abetted by the president, past and present, and the governors themselves,
Hmm.
who have refused to take responsibilities of their states in a federal system. That's why we're suffering today.
Hmm.
So those are we can do all these things in 6 months.
Hmm. Yeah. No, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I think this has been quite revealing and a fresh take on this issue, because there's so much that has been said about restructuring Nigeria's security architecture, and I believe the way you've broken this down for us today helps to throw further light on it, and even in terms of those things that needs to be done, particularly focusing on the police. I know there is a lot of pushback even by the current federal police against this idea of creating state police, but it's an idea, I believe, whose time has come, and we are best served if we quickly move along those lines than just remaining headstrong in one particular position, that Nigeria can only be policed by one police force with one inspector general of police. I think that is not helping us as a country. I appreciate what the time you are giving, sir. Thank you for your service to the country, and thank you for the service you continue to offer, in terms of ideas, in terms of uh, pushing ideas to help move Nigeria forward. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, General. And
Yeah,
thank
good to
you.
see you again, and all the
Yes,
best
sir.
of luck.
Yes. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. May we overcome the challenges that we are going through now. Yeah. All right, sir.
No, we can overcome if we are ready. We have already done all the things we needed to overcome.
Amen. Amen.